Thank you, Mayor. Let's pray together. Lord, we give thanks for this evening and for this meeting. We pray blessing over everything that happens in this room. We pray for peace and protection for this space. We pray for wisdom for this mayor and council as they deliberate on issues. We pray as things come before them and people speak, that you would give them wisdom for each individual item. Lord, fill them with strength and hope and integrity as they work together tonight. Lord, we give thanks for this mayor. We pray blessing over he and his family and all the members of council. We give thanks for their service. Lord, just the willingness to spend time away from their family and to serve their community, and we pray blessing on them for that. We pray for our town manager. We pray that you would bless Wade Carroll with wisdom as he leads this team, and we pray that you would give him strength, and we give thanks for him. Thank you for your goodness to us, and we pray, Lord, for your help tonight. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Well done. Thank you for being here. Please rise and join me to recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Tonight we have Joshua Chishando, and he's in 6th grade, and Adeline Dempsey is in 6th grade, and these students are chosen based on exhibition of profile traits. So
I put to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, independent and indivisible, and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you all very much. Great job. Thanks for being here. Do we have any citizen or parent comments today? We do not. Mr. Sasser, items of community interest?
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Good evening, everybody. We've got a very busy October, so we're really excited about all the things that are going on in the town of Westlake and Westlake Academy. Let's start off with this Wednesday. You guys have been hearing me talk about it for weeks.
Yes.
It's happening. It's as if the real Taylor Swift is coming to Westlake. Might as well be. That's a crowd we're expecting. And we're very excited about our concert. It's going to be happening right outside of these windows from 5:30 to 7:30 on Wednesday. There's going to be food, drinks. The Terra Lounge will be open, games for kids and vendors and all kinds of fun stuff. So we hope you guys can come out there. The weather's supposed to be beautiful. It's going to be a real fun community event. Of course, we're hoping everybody from Westlake Academy shows up as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, you guys are well aware of the specially called council work session meeting coming up on November 7th. That's a Thursday from 3 to 7 o'clock. That's going to be here at the Terraces of Solana, conference room number 3. And then our planning and zoning meeting, the next one will be on November 12th. If you recall, this was the one that was moved from October 29th. So again, November 12th. Several other items to talk about. First of all, the survey. I know this was something that we distributed quite a bit throughout the community, whether it be our stakeholders, residents, parents at the academy, staff members as well. The results are in. I know you guys are going to be briefed with that on your November 7th meeting, and then shortly after that, we'll make that public to all of our residents and the parents at the academy as well, so they can get an update of what's going on and the direction we're taking both moving forward in the future. Also, big news coming out of the town is regarding upgrades to our infrastructure. In the coming weeks, staff will begin performing audits on our water meters across town. This impacts a lot of folks in our neighborhoods, obviously. It's all a part of our new water meter and system maintenance program and billing software. This is going to upgrade the town. We'll be rolling out in the next couple of months. A new maintenance program will ensure that our equipment is working properly and replaced as necessary. The new billing system will improve our processes, leading to better accuracy and efficiency. So that's going to be happening here in the next few weeks and months, leading into 2025. Next, we've got something we're really proud of that Chief Art is working with several other North Texas fire departments, where they're collecting goods for hurricane victims in western North Carolina. Oftentimes, those folks get overlooked. The center of attention oftentimes is Florida. But they just were absolutely devastated by flooding. So our Westlake Fire and EMS department, along with other North Texas fire departments, are drop-off zones for a lot of needed goods for those victims. We're talking about clothing, cleaning supplies, blankets, gloves, shoes, extension cords, heaters, those kinds of things. You know, it's easy to forget that it is late October in the mountains of North Carolina. It gets really cold up there, and they're trying to deal with all of these repairs and trying to get people with proper shelter. So they need a lot of cold winter stuff. So again, you can drop off any of those things at our Westlake Fire and EMS department. That is until October 26th. And our the location is 2000 Dove Road. So we appreciate any help you can provide with that. Applications are now open for Chief Brad Fortune Student Forum. It's an advisory group that connects high school students in Westlake Academy with the Keller Police Department leadership. These groups serve as an opportunity to promote and maintain honest and transparent communication between the students at the academy and the police chief and the department as a whole. Applications are open to students in grades 10, 11, and 12. They're due by 8 a.m. on Monday, November 4th. I know we've done this in the past with Westlake Academy. We've had several of our students be a part of this. It's really a cool initiative that Chief Fortune has implemented and offered up to all of our students to be a part of. They've really enjoyed it. They've got a lot of great feedback from the perspective of teenagers and how they view police officers and vice versa. So that's really cool, and we're excited about that. Two other quick things here. Early voting just began today and runs through November 1st. So we've got plenty of information there on our website as well as our social media if you're looking for locations and what you need to early vote. A recap quickly on our Monster Mash Trunk or Treat. We had, 24 trunks that were decorated at the school over the weekend. Our communications manager, Joe Durden, said it was like 600 to 700 people there, which was great. Yeah. So, and I know Marlene Rutledge, she dressed up and was a part of it, as she always is, and was a big hit, and said it was just so much fun, and all the kids and the families had a great time. And, you know, again, it's one of those community events that we love so much. And then finally, I saved the best for last. The U.S. News and World Report rated Westlake Academy's middle school as the #1 charter middle school in all of Texas. And also ranked our elementary school as the 4th best charter elementary school in Texas as well.
Well done.
And luckily, we're not finished. Niche is the 2025 Best Schools ranking. Our elementary school was named the #1 best public elementary school in all of DFW. So we're talking about two really reputable publications that think quite highly of Westlake Academy, and that's something to be awfully proud of. And Dr. Ritchie and I were talking just a couple of days ago about this, that while rankings and ratings aren't necessarily the end-all, be-all, they're certainly a great indication of the hard work that all of your staff and your students are doing over there. So congratulations to you guys.
Well done.
Those are your items of community interest.
Hey, John, a couple things. On the application for Chief Fortune, do we know how many applications? Do we track that? I want to make sure that we're...
We do not get those. Those go directly to Chief Fortune's staff, but I'm going to check in with him and see if he's...
Thank you. Let's make sure we have some involvement there. And then the donations, I'm going to embarrass myself because I didn't see it. Did we publicize that on the town's website or any message?
Yes, that's all going out
there.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely.
Great.
So all the information that we've talked about tonight is either on the website or social media or both.
Okay, and then last thing, I want to give a shout out. Alexa and I attended the Edward Jones one-year anniversary ribbon cutting. There was probably, 50 people there. Stacy Stover, the manager of that office. It was a fabulous event, but I want to give a shout out. We're glad they're with us, and we're glad they're part of the family in Entrada.
Indeed.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Come on, let's give it to him. Let's I was trying to see where I was on the agenda, John, sorry. So we got presentations with action items 23-349, Exploring the International Baccalaureate IB, Inquire at Westlake Academy, Michelle Briggs. I think we're having some technical issues.
Yes, Mayor, I was going to say, I'm terribly sorry, but it looks like we're having some technical issues, and we're, even though Jason's done some magic to get our presentations working, we can't play video. So terribly sorry, Michelle. I know you worked hard on the video.
No, you're good. I just wanted to say really quickly, I'll send it out to you guys in an email, and we'll try, if we can get the tech working next meeting, to show it. But just wanted to kind of give my preview so you know what you are looking at. This is going to be the first installment of what IB looks like in the halls of Westlake Academy. So from kindergarten to 12th grade, we're going to explore inquiry. What that is, it is a pillar of the approaches to teaching in the IB's philosophy. And so it's a 4.5 minutes about exactly what this looks like. We're in a 5th grade class, a 3rd grade class, a senior 10th grade, and a 10th grade class. So, and then clips from the rest of the academy. But just the first installment, the rest will be coming, but just wanted to give you that preview, and I'll send it to your emails shortly. Thank you.
Thanks. And Michelle and Kelly, I just want to tell you from the kind of the first overview video, I think the exposure we're giving the school, I think the view book that I hope we're going to get out to all residents and parents.
Almost printed, right?
Okay.
Twice I walked away, and
I know.
my bad.
I
don't know why. I don't know how many times you have to tell me. I'm not a quick learner, apparently. Yeah, so the view book is in production. It is supposed to be shipped to us on Friday, hopefully. And so that will be, we've talked to USPS, we know how to do, it'll go out to every Westlake resident. It's been proofed. It's updated. There's more new pictures and some more information on there. So you guys will get that, I guess, next week as well, just to have the final version. But
that's fabulous. And then I think Kelly, you did your first kind of head of school update, and I think we're starting a new practice. I want everybody in town to understand what's going on at the school. Right? We've found out a couple of things the last 4 or 5 months that the town does care about the school, whether you have kids there or not. Yeah. And Westlake Academy is part of the fabric of this town, so I want to make sure they have exposure to all the great things that are going on. So we're looking forward to getting that.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the support.
Thank you all.
am I dismissed?
Well, till you sit down.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Okay, moving on. Agenda item E2, WA Resolution 24-39, receive presentation, discussion, and consideration to act to approve WA Resolution 24-39, adopting the Westlake Academy Library Materials Collection Development Policy. Katie Estrada, how are you?
Thank you for having us. My name is Katie Estrada. I'm the secondary librarian for Westlake Academy. I serve grades 12.
And I'm Amber Bernard. I'm the PYP teacher librarian, so I see all students kindergarten through grade 5. Great, so we'll start with our library mission. We strive to be the heart of the school and support Westlake Academy and its mission. We provide students and educators access to physical and digital resources that support the IB curriculum across all 3 programs, fostering a culture of academic and personal reading that values texts representing diverse perspectives and respects students' freedom to read. We support student development of communication, research, and thinking skills for engaging with physical and digital resources. We collaborate locally and globally to create meaningful learning experiences, and we strive to maintain a learning environment where students and educators can collaborate, inquire, create, while exemplifying the IB learner profile traits that we all know and love. Okay, so this is just a little snapshot of what our day-to-day looks like. In the primary years program in the Bradley Library, we have a fixed schedule for all classes K to 5. I teach 45-minute lessons to all 18 classes, so I get to see every class once a week for a full lesson. I also provide daily open checkout for all PYP students every morning from 7:30 to 8:30. So even if it's not your library lesson day of the week, students have access to fresh books every day of the week, and it's very busy in the mornings. I also co-facilitate exhibition by pushing in to co-teach with grade 5 for exhibition, and focus on the culture of reading. And we just really want students in the primary years to develop a love for learning, a love for inquiry, a love for reading, and and lots of collaboration with classroom teachers, with families, coordinating guest speakers, author visits. Right now we have the PYP Storybook Pumpkin Contest going on. We have a partnership with Chief Ard. We're doing the fire safety poster contest, so just lots of things to get kids really excited about reading.
And in the secondary library, we try to really help maintain that culture of reading that our PYP is so great at establishing. As the students get older, it gets harder to maintain their interest in books and to help them find the books that they like as they get older, and also to balance that with all of their coursework that they have. And so our middle schoolers come every other week to the library for lessons and for checkout. High schoolers come once a month. But then beyond that, there's on-demand lessons as well to help them prepare for the extended essay, personal project, and all of the great research assignments that they do in the diploma program, which prepares them for college also. So we have a great collection that is just growing, and we are grateful for the support that we have from the school. When you look at our collection from K through 12, we have over 8,000 titles in our collection, and we are frequently, we're going to talk a little bit about our process today, but rotating those and making sure that we're keeping the collection fresh and inviting for our students so that they can find books that they love. This is me too. So we are here today, partially, but not just because of this, but we're here today to have a collection development policy so that we can all be on the same page in understanding how books are chosen for the library and what our procedures are if there's something that a family member is concerned about, and how we handle all of that. Part of this is required, this is required now because of House Bill 900, which mostly focuses on prohibiting harmful material, especially sexually explicit material in the library. And some of the highlights of that bill is that it's protecting students from that harmful material while also making sure that we're not removing material just because of the ideas contained in it or because of the personal background of the author, but we're also still recognizing parents as the primary decision makers regarding what their students access in the library. And so all of this has come under development in the last couple of years with the Reader Act, and you all can see the timeline there. Since it's been signed into law, there has been one part of the law that right now is not enforceable, and that's related to the vendor rating system. At this point in the state of Texas, that we're not able to enforce that part of the law because currently there is no vendor rating system. So we're just, kind of at this point, we don't have that part. Every other part of the law, though, is implemented into the collection development policy. So schools and districts were not necessarily given a deadline for implementing a collection development policy, but we've been working hard on this now for quite some time to make sure that we're developing policy that aligns with our practices and reflects what's actually happening in the library each day while meeting the requirements of the law. This law also applies to classroom libraries as well, so the policy will apply to classroom libraries as well as what's in the library. However, just to know that this is separate from an instructional materials policy, so this does not pertain to the books that are selected for like English class that are taught in the classroom as part of our curriculum. That is something that is separate. So some other things that are required by the law is transparency of the collection being publicly available, which our collection is already searchable on our library websites. Having a process for how we evaluate, select, deselect, and reconsider materials, which these are all practices that we already had in place, but we're just putting all of that in writing exactly how we do that. And making sure that we have trained professionals in the library that understand collection development standards and how to select appropriate and engaging materials for our students. So I think that this is me or you.
So the resources used in the creation of the policy of the collection develop. Oh, it did jump
ahead. Sorry, that was my fault. I jumped ahead here and here. Okay.
You're good.
Sorry. So our goals in developing a policy were to meet the requirements of the law, to align with our mission of IB World School, and we shared our mission at the beginning as a library, and to make sure that we have clear and reasonable procedures that guides everyone that's involved in the process. So families, librarians, teachers, administrators, and school board members as well.
No, you did great. You're doing great. So the resources used for the collection development policy include the Texas State Library and Archives Commission, TEA, and the mandatory standards for school library collection development. Okay, so moving to selection objectives. So our goal in making selections for the library include enrich and supporting the TEKS, that's our state standards, while taking into consideration students' varied interests, maturity levels, abilities, and learning styles. We also are aiming to support the implementation of the IB curriculum for all of our programs, PYP, MYP, and DP, including culminating experiences for each program, the PYP exhibition, the MYP personal project, and the DP extended essay. And finally, our goal to foster growth in factual knowledge, literary appreciation, aesthetic values, and societal standards. We aim to encourage the enjoyment of reading, foster higher level thinking skills, and support personal learning and encourage discussion based on rational analysis, fostering personal inquiry and reading by selecting materials that appeal to a wide range of interests and perspectives appropriate for all of our Westlake Academy blacksmiths, representing ethnic, religious, and cultural groups of the state and their contribution to Texas, the nation, and the world, facilitating student development of international mindedness by selecting materials representing diverse experiences and perspectives, and we aim to provide materials in a variety of formats, including print and electronic, allowing students to experience with locating, accessing, and engaging with a range of sources. For evaluation and selection, we have selection objectives, program priorities, meaning what's needed in the PYP, what's needed in the MYP, what's needed in the DP. That guides what it is that what we order. For example, there was a new unit in grade 4, and one of the lines of inquiry is digital citizenship. So in ordering, that's taken into consideration, and we make it a goal, that these are some resources that we lack and we need to build, and so we take into account the program priorities, age appropriateness. We're very mindful of that. What goes in the primary years library may also be suitable for the secondary, but it may not always be vice versa, and there are times where we may have to shift a book. So methods of evaluation. We look for reviews from professional library science journals before making purchases. We review the context of the work and fit with existing collection and curriculum, like I was explaining with the digital citizenship materials. We directly review the items as if we're placing an order before we ever put anything on the shelves. We look over it and try to read it and make sure we're familiar with what's inside. Community recommendations, those are very helpful, and of course teacher recommendations. And we have had success with community recommendations just from parents coming in to visit, coming in, reading with their children. I know at the end of the school year last year, one of the moms was so insightful, and she said, I noticed there's really not a lot of classics. And so we got to talking about that, and so on the first order in the fall, I was really excited to take her input and purchase some new classics, and they're already flying off the shelves. So just having that community and teacher recommendations is invaluable. As part of our collection development policy, we now are ensuring that there is a full inventory every 2 years. We just finished our inventory in October, and so we're going to make sure that happens every 2 years. We evaluate for replacement or removal by taking into consideration the copyright date, the physical condition of the book, space consideration, circulation, how many times it's checked out, by how many students, how long are they keeping the book, are they reading the books, are they enjoying them, relevance to the curriculum and collection development objectives and standards.
And just so you know that in addition to that, that formal inventory, we still are doing that process of evaluating our collection, throughout the year. In between those 2 years, it's an ongoing process for sure. So the next step is to talk about what our process is when we have a request for reconsideration. And so if a family member is concerned about a book that their child brings home or something that we have in the library, the first thing that happens is that they notify the principal or teacher that they're directed to the librarian, and that we either over the phone or in person have a conversation about their concerns for the book. And when they share their concerns for the book, then we will have a discussion. We'll talk about whether or not it fits in with our collection development policy. And so in that first step, we're just trying to come to a common understanding of what the concern is. If it's determined that the book does meet the collection development standards, at that point the family member has some different options. One option would be requesting that it's put in the system that their child not have access to the book. So parents can always request that their child does not have access into anything that they want to restrict. That's completely fine. But if it is to the degree that they think that the book should not be in the collection at all, then they can move forward with formal reconsideration. And so what formal reconsideration would look like is that the family would be given a form to fill out about the book and their concerns, and the principal would help the librarian put together a committee that would consist of the librarian, assistant principal, the coordinator for that grade level, and a teacher from that grade level. All members of the committee would read the book entirely and meet to discuss the book and its alignment with the collection development policy. And then they would make a decision within 60 school days. Now, obviously, that's going to vary depending on if it's a picture book, which doesn't take very long for everyone to read. But if it's a novel, then we might need a little bit more time to make sure everybody has a copy and has time to read the full book. They would put together a written report of their findings of whether or not the book fits the collection development policy and any actions taken. So actions taken could be the committee could decide to remove the book from the collection. The committee could decide to move it to a different part of the library where it's accessible for a different audience. So you saw in the collection development policy that you had access to that we have systems in place that direct students to the books that are appropriate for their age. And at that point, if they are, once the written report is given to the family, if they still have a concern and still want to move forward with an appeal, they have that option. So, although it's taken some time, we are really happy with what we have presented to you all as our collection development policy, because it meets the requirements of the law. It aligns with our mission as an IB World School, and it gives us all hopefully clear procedures and transparency for our library collection so that we can all collaborate and work together in making sure that everyone is happy with the books that we have in the library. Do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, one question.
Yes, sir.
It's a tall order to make sure everyone's happy with all the books they have in the library.
Yes.
So, Godspeed on that work.
No doubt.
On the other side of that, do you have the option to reserve certain titles that require parent consent before a child might be able to check those books out?
So what this looks like for example, in the library where I'm at, especially because my library, the secondary library is for 6th through 12th grade. There's a big difference between books for a senior and a books for a 6th grader. So we have a system in place where some of the books are labeled as lower secondary and they are light blue on the spine, and then the upper secondary is dark blue. For our students, every year a letter goes home to families in grades 6 and 7 that says that the books in the library that are light blue, lower secondary, are especially appropriate and reserved for our lower secondary students. However, if families want the option to give their child open access to all of the books in the secondary library, they have a form that they submit, and then I put that information in the system so when they check out, if a 6th grader has a high school book that they want to check out, I have a note that says that their parents have given permission for them to have access to the high school books. On the flip side, if a family wanted to restrict access to books in the library, they can let us know, and then we can put a note that pops up when in the system. And that can be for lots of different reasons that families would want that, but yes.
Good answer. Thank you.
Yes.
Lex, I want to just tell you, we had an issue. A parent contacted me, and there was a book in the library they didn't want their child to read, and I think there were some other parents involved, but I mentioned to Kelly, I can't tell you how much I appreciate how you handle that and the process you have in place and the restrictions you have in place, so thank you.
Thank you.
Mike, to your point, it is hard keeping everybody happy, but I'm really proud of how y'all handle that and handling this. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. Very helpful. 2 questions. One is a simpler one. You talk about 8,000 titles that you have in the library. Are those all hard copy, or are you including digital as well?
Those are all physical.
That's
We
incredible.
scanned all 8,000 books. I'm serious. We scanned all 8,000 books from the last week of May up until the first week of October to make sure we had a very accurate count so that when anybody is curious what's in the library, everyone can see it. It's completely transparent. It's on the Bradley Library website. And so, and students can see if there's a book and it's checked in or if it's checked out. They know the availability of the book. It's really multi-purpose.
That's great.
Well done.
There are only a few states that have a law like this. But I'm assuming that many other schools have similar kinds of curation processes. Am I correct in thinking that that's a best practice for not just an IB school, but for other public entities?
Absolutely. So the American Library Association, the Texas Library Association, even prior to House Bill 900, that has been the recommendation that schools have a collection development and policy in place. I would say we've always had these practices in place, but now taking it to the level of having it be policy just helps us all have that level of collaboration and support. And so I'm really grateful that you all are taking the time to look at it today so that we can have that level of support from you all.
Great work. Thank you.
No doubt. Great work.
I have a question related to the HB 900 itself. So according to your presentation, the laws have prevented the vendor rating system. So with the absence of that, how are you curating the collection in terms of rating whether or not the books are appropriate? Or, because I know that the basis behind this law was to prevent explicit materials and things like that in the library. So I'm just curious how you're doing that without the rating system.
So that rating system will really be specific to like explicit sexual content, but we already are filtering and checking our materials for age appropriateness. And that's when we said that we looked at professional library journals, between the publisher and the library journals, all of those reviews have recommended age ranges that guide us. And so then we read the review. And then there are also it will say, for example, at a book, the high school level, it may say mature theme. And so if there's a book that says mature themes, then that's when I'm going to look a little bit more closely at the review. When it comes in, I'm going to take a little bit more time with it to see how it's handling that whatever topic it is.
Right. And then one other question is, I did notice in the bill it said something about TEA providing a list of prohibited materials. Is that something that's still in the law, or was that?
That's tied to the vendor ratings.
Tied to the vendor. Okay.
And so the vendor's perspective on this is they're basically saying, you wouldn't ask the movie theater to rate the books or to rate the movies. So that's where they're feeling uncomfortable with that requirement, and so that's their argument at this point. So we'll see what happens with that part.
All right,
thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, just a couple thoughts here. I really have to commend you. 8,000 scanned books. I mean, the passion is just visible. So I know you guys put a lot. I hope that this policy will level out in terms of the impact on your workload. But since it's a new policy, my questions have to do with just how we can monitor the effectiveness of the policy and how it rolls out. Any new system, any new policy is going to have some kinks to work through, obviously. So I would be curious if maybe in about a year's time, the board here could take a look at the complaint volume and any trends, for one. The second one would be any kind of metric on resolution, the percentage of maybe removed books or restricted books or no change to the book. And then also the community feedback. I think this is probably a pretty hot topic right now, and hopefully this policy will build trust with the community and maybe be less of an issue in a couple of years' time.
I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah, that's a great point, Ann. I would like to know on the path, but again, I will tell you this family that brought the attention of that book, they couldn't have been more pleased with the resolution, how you handled it. So.
Yeah.
And then just to let you know, in elementary school, I worked in the library, so if y'all need help, I'm there.
Good to know.
Any other questions?
I heard you volunteer for guest reader next week.
I'll be happy to. I'll be happy to. That's a lot of fun. Can I get a motion to approve WA Resolution 2439, adopting the Westlake Academy Library Materials Collection Development Policy as presented?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Well done, ladies. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Resolution 24-71, receive presentation, discuss, consider, and act to approve Resolution 24-71, approving a professional services agreement with Freeze and Nichols for a water, wastewater, and roadway impact fee study in the amount not to exceed $118,000. Hi, Cheryl.
Good
Right on to
evening.
you.
How are y'all doing this evening?
How are you?
I'm good. We have several items on the agenda for you. So we're going to start with this one. This is the first item is a professional services agreement, like you said, for the water and wastewater and roadway impact fee study. As a rapidly growing community, the town of Westlake has an opportunity to consider the implementation of water, wastewater, and/or roadway impact fees that will allow for development to participate in the cost of necessary future improvements to serve the community. An impact fee is a charge or assessment to new development that generates revenue for funding or recouping costs of capital improvements or facility expansions that are necessitated by new development. New residential, commercial, or industrial development can significantly increase traffic on your roadways, water consumption, and wastewater volumes. Impact fees are calculated in accordance with the methodology outlined in Chapter 395 of the Texas Local Government Code, and they're based on land use assumptions, expected population growth, and corresponding capital improvements and expenditures necessary to support that growth. The water, wastewater, and roadway impact fee study will determine the maximum allowable impact fees that may be charged based on the town's capital improvement program needed to serve the town at full build-out. The professional services agreement before you includes the scope shown on the slide. At the completion of the study itself, the consultant will bring back a presentation to the Planning and Zoning Commission and to the City Council with the maximum possible assessment for water, wastewater, and roadway impact fees for discussion and final determination by the Council for implementation. If approved, the Council will determine and vote on a timeline for rolling out those impact fees for new development. The total cost of the impact fee study is $118,000 and will be funded by the utility fund reserves. If impact fees are approved by ordinance, the cost of the impact fee study may be reimbursed with impact fees collected. You may recognize this schedule from the Water Master Plan Agreement that came before Council for consideration in September. Phase 2 of the schedule is the water, wastewater, and roadway impact fee study. It's the bottom half of the schedule. Kickoff is planned for the first of the year with a 9-month duration from start to finish. Based on the schedule, the Council may consider the adoption of water, wastewater, and/or roadway impact fees around August of next year. If you choose to go forward at that time, a second public hearing will be required, and the adoption of an impact fee ordinance could be as early as October of next year. As part of the approval of the impact fee ordinance, the council will have the option of deciding when to begin assessing and collecting impact fees. So you could make a decision that those would be initiated immediately. You could wait until January, right after the first of the year, and then there could be an additional discussion of maybe you wait several months, depending on the council's decision. So this is a list of 20 municipalities that the consultant has had experience working on impact fee studies with. The list shows 4 that are currently ongoing, including City of Fort Worth, McKinney, New Braunfels Utilities, and the Town of Little Elm. I wasn't able to fit it all on one slide, so I split it out into a second slide. There are an additional 6 ongoing studies on this slide for a total of 10. And existing staff has also had prior experience working with this firm on impact fees previously. Here's an outline of the process that the consultant will describe to you in their presentations. Are there any questions before I turn it over? Okay, at this time, I would like to introduce Andrew Franco with Reason Nichols to walk you through the impact fee process and to answer any detailed or technical questions for you.
Good afternoon,
Hey,
Mayor,
welcome.
Council. Thank you for having me back again. I was here on, I believe it was September 3rd, where we talked about the Water Master Plan. And so today we're going to talk about wastewater roadway impact fees. The other thing, too, actually, I have some other slides at the end of this presentation. We had a question at the last meeting asking about some reuse or some irrigation demand management type thing. So I do have a couple slides put together as well that I'm going to kind of show and present and highlight a couple of things. So, Cheryl, thanks again. So the water wastewater impact fee roadway process, as she mentioned, it's governed by Chapter 395 of the Texas Local Government Code, and it lists out a prescribed methodology of all the different steps that are required in order to potentially enact or enable a program such as this. So the major steps are here, developing a land use assumption. As part of the Water Master Plan project that we're currently doing right now, we're going to be actually doing a lot of this work on the front end. We're going to pull a lot of the information and the data that's going to come into the impact fee study itself. The next step is to identify what they're called eligible capital improvement projects. So not every project in your system is going to be impact fee eligible. I'll talk about a little bit about that here in a second. We'll conduct the calculations and come back forward before this body with what the technical results of the study can say is the maximum allowable number that you can charge. The consultant, we don't make any recommendations about what you can charge. We present the information, and its council ultimately has a decision on what level or what fees we do want to implement. Other portions of the 395 rules say that you must develop a CIAC, or Capital Improvements Advisory Committee. So that's going to be kind of like an independent third body that's going to review, provide input to this group as well as part of the process. And as this would be a new program, you're required to have 2 separate public hearings with a 30-day public notice. So just a little bit more background on the basis of what this fee program is. I believe it was in the late 1980s that the state of Texas enabled basically the development of impact fee programs. And so really what we're trying to do, or what we like to say about impact fee programs, is we try to make growth pay their proportional share of growth. So as new residents move to Westlake, be it residential or non-residential, that's going to put that strain on your infrastructure, water, sewer, roadway. So what's going to be their fair share to contribute to the systems to not have all of your existing ratepayers and taxpayers kind of foot the bill for all those improvements? So if you do enable a program like this, state law requires you to update it at least every 5 years. There's some cities like City of Fort Worth, they do theirs every 3 years, where they like to relook at, how are the demographics changing, how are their projects changing, how does that impact their overall kind of bottom line or the numbers that are charged? So what can we pay for under an impact fee program? We can pay for the construction, surveying, engineering, land acquisition, and debt service associated with water, sewer, and roadway facilities. So talking about water supply, distribution lines, pump stations, tanks, any other facility required to implement those projects, and then your roadways as well. So if you think about I'll just throw an example out there what a project may look like. If you have a 2-lane road and you need to expand it to a 4-lane road, a portion of that cost is going to be able for recoupment. So you're expanding the capacity of that roadway facility to accommodate for future projected growth and development. Those are the types of projects and costs that we can pay for. So what can we not pay for under this program? We can't pay for the upgrading, updating, or expanding of capital improvements that do not serve future projected growth and development. We can't use these funds to pay for basically O&M of our current facilities, be it water, sewer, roadway. If a project is not deemed eligible, we cannot use impact fee dollars to pay for any part of that project. The administrative and operating costs, so that would be a town cost to run the program. And then the same thing about the eligible project, the debt service of projects that are not deemed eligible cannot use those dollars to pay for that. Already hit on the process. Talked about the CIAC. So again, state law says you have to develop a CIAC committee. A lot of the cities we do these for, they actually just use their P&Z committee. And so you would have your P&Z committee, open the meeting, close the meeting, and then you would open up a CIAC meeting to talk about the business related to impact fees. So what they do is they provide that input and guidance on the LUAs, the CIP, and then provide a written recommendation to the council 5 business days prior to the public hearing. If a program like this were to be implemented in town of Westlake, they would be required to meet twice a year, a semi-annual update, and that kind of serves as more of a checks and balances of the system to see what funds are we collecting, what are we spending it on, is the program being administered appropriately. So the technical process, just got some example slides here. We talk about, we're looking at a 10-year window basically, so we'll say 2025 to 2035, for example. We would look at what's going to be our projected 10-year growth and development, i.e. population or employment. And so what that does is we're going to basically convert all that growth into water demands, wastewater flows, and then particular miles traveled. On the roadway side, they use vehicle miles to determine are we over, under capacity, or what do we need in the next year. So land use assumptions are the basis for the eligible CIP development. And so you look at what are the projects we have in our capital improvement plan over the next 10 years that's going to serve future projected growth. And you kind of look at a project is going to add so much capacity to your system, water, sewer, roadway. So you look at what proportion of that is going to be attributed to 10-year growth. So if I add a new water line that can move 2 million gallons of water a day, and I need 1 million gallons of that for the next 10 years, 50% of that basically gets rolled into the overall cost in the dollars that's going to go to determining maximum allowable impact fee dollar. So at the bottom of the screen, this is basically the very simplified calculation of the numerator, denominator, and max allowable fee. So we look at what is our eligible cost from our eligible project. So what proportion of that is going to use to serve the growth. There's a credit box in there. So state law basically says that if you do not choose to do a detailed financial credit analysis, you're required to basically just chop 50% of the total cost right off the top. And so that's going to become basically your numerator. I will say for majority of cities around the Metroplex, that's kind of the preferred approach at this time. And so you basically look at what's my cost and then what's my growth. SFLUE stands for Single Family Living Unit Equivalent. We're basically trying to figure out how many new customers will be tying on to the city. So your cost divided by your growth will determine what is that maximum allowable impact fee that could be assessed. Not would be, could be. So from a policy standpoint, so that's kind of the technical side, first half. Second half is more the administrative policy side of things. When you're looking at consideration for developing an ordinance, you kind of want to know, all right, how are we going to administrate this program? We have a defined service area where we're going to be collecting these. If you're not within a designated service area, you would not be allowed to have that charge per state law. So determining how we want to collect the fees. Do we want to establish provisions for credits or offsets? Say, for example, if a developer comes in and they contribute X number of $1 million, or they say, I'm going to build this project, would you allow them to get a credit or an offset in order to do so? Those are options available to you. Developing a fee schedule would essentially look like, for water sewer, you look at basically the size of water meter will determine how much your water sewer impact fee would be. So if I have a larger meter, I can take more from the distribution system, therefore I should be charged a higher fee. If I have a larger water meter, I can produce more wastewater into the collection system, so I should charge a higher fee. On the roadway side of things, there's a lot of different land use types, and that land use type will determine what is basically that vehicular mile load that we're adding to the system. A lot of different coefficients, like a single family residence isn't going to generate as much traffic as a 10,000 square foot office facility would. So you kind of determine based on your land use what that potential roadway impact fee would look like. So the actual application and collection of the process, state law says that you're supposed to assess the impact fee when an individual files a final plat. So that would be their assessed rate. And then the fee is actually collected when they pull their building permit. That's kind of from the state law, kind of how the mechanics of assessing and collecting work. State law does say that you're required to provide a 1-year grace period for development that's platted prior to the adoption of your ordinance. So folks who start platting after adoption of your ordinance, they would be subjected to them right away. But those who file a plat prior to would be given that 1-year grace period. And again, this is something that's assessed on new development, or if somebody wants to redevelop their property and they change their land use type, or if they go from a smaller water meter to a larger water meter, they would be basically subjected to the difference of that cost. Your existing residents who don't change their land use or meters, they would never pay this fee, essentially. So some other final policy considerations of, do we want to do zone fees? Do we want to charge a uniform rate? We charge basically a flat rate if it's less than the maximum. So if your maximum says $4,500, we just want to do $4,000. Those are going to be options that are be available kind of down the road. These are going to be some things that we'll talk about during the kind of the life of the project, but just wanting to provide a little bit of information up front to kind of get your wheels turning. One of the most important things we do is we benchmark your utility with other neighboring utilities. I don't know how current those numbers are, I can tell you. Some of them might have changed, but essentially we want to look at what our neighbors are charging, maybe what a similar size town would be charging. Kind of going to leave it up to council and staff on who do you want to benchmark yourselves against, and just kind of see where we fall in that range.
Can you go back one slide real quick? The second bullet point, our town is so small. Where would your gut tell you on where we sit on bullet point number 2? Would we want to do a credit analysis? And come out ahead?
Well, my thought to that would be, if we were to go the credit analysis route, again, that's going to tell you, if you don't just take the 50% kind of right off the top, could you get to 100%? Could you get to 80%, 85% without knowing, kind of where we stand?
Okay.
It's
no trend based on size?
No, it's not based on size. It would be basically based on your current debt service and kind of where you land as far as.
It would be a financial capability.
It would be, essentially, yes.
Okay.
Again, so, if you look at kind of across the Metroplex, there's a wide range of costs just from this small sample that that we could look at. I mean, again, not every city charges all these fees. Some just do water, wastewater. I've seen some that do only roadway. So there's a whole wide variety of things that can be looked at here to know what's right for Westlake. Too high, too low? Where do we want to be on the scale?
I want to make sure I understand this slide. So Fort Worth obviously stands out. Are you telling me for every single family house, the buyer pays $13,738 in these fees?
That one is so with the roadway impact fees. They have a lot of different zones across their city.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure exactly which zone that is.
Okay.
But in a portion of the city,
just generally speaking, regardless of the zone, is that what that's telling me?
It
if
is.
I go buy this certain house in Fort Worth, I'm going to pay $13,738.
I built commercially in Fort Worth, and I believe it.
Oh.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure for all the zones that are like inside Loop 820, their roadway impact fees it might be $0. It's just the areas where they have a lot of new growth and development, they do have some higher fees.
For clarification, in my experience here and in other cities, these types of fees are contained in the water tap permit. Are you saying that we're not already collecting a lot more than this in the water tap permit that applies to some of this infrastructure? I believe we are. I want to understand that.
I am not sure about what your fee structure looks like for that. I would say, though, if you have a tap fee, this should be tracked separately from a tap fee.
But we have a tremendous tap fee. It's like, so are you suggesting that doesn't go to these uses already for residential?
Mr. Aselta, I think we'll look at that in conjunction together and make sure that we're not overcharging, right? But also making sure that we're covering our charge or covering our costs as required.
Okay, I would just ask that it be taken into consideration because I don't find this to be a new assessment, different name, but not a new assessment necessarily.
Or tap fees, a lot of times, they can cover the cost of creating that tap, but it also rolls in some other kind of general, like some future O&M down the road. The town wants to collect is going to cover for some of these things in the future.
Okay,
I would say a lot of the impact fees specifically cover some of your more like big ticket, high dollar type projects rather than just your local residential O&M.
Wait, just so that we look at those together. That'd be
yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely.
One of the other tools we build as part of this process is basically an Excel-based cost calculator that we provide to staff. We have some cities even put these on their website that allows someone to go in and kind of plug in all the different variables and calculate what their fee could look like. So it's a tool available definitely for town staff, but it could be public forward-facing if desired, so folks can kind of get a sense of what their fee would look like if they have to pay it. So that's kind of the end of the impact fee slides that I have. Are there any other questions here?
In your assumptions, you think about expansion over the next 10 years. Realize we've got a strategic planning work with Baker Tilly. So if you could just ensure that your assumptions and their assumptions are harmonized, so we're looking at the same set.
Yeah, as part of the master plan activities, we've already received some of that information, and we'll continue to gather more along the way.
Yeah, please.
I was in the utility business in Nevada before I moved here, so this was a very important part of our regulatory oversight, in that when there was growth, and there was so much growth in Las Vegas, they wanted to assure that the growth was not paid for by the existing residents. Very difficult job. We have a very small, rather small geographic footprint, but the biggest dispute came about as a result of a very large customer moving in and being the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of the infrastructure necessary to support that kind of new demand.
Mm-hmm.
Might not be applicable to us, but how do you deal with that kind of potential if something comes down the road that we're not expecting when we're doing this plan?
Sure. So, yes, if being in a smaller footprint, if one industry or customer comes in that changes your dynamics, again, if you had a program like this in place, you could collect some revenue if they choose to build. Or you have the option to look at some sort of developer agreement or something that says they commit to, I'm going to pay this, this, or this. If that didn't work, this would be like a fallback option potentially.
And Councilman Yamada, it definitely will affect Westlake as we look at Hillwood, the possibility of bringing in at least 1 to 2 more corporate campuses. So it's absolutely could affect.
Any other questions? Wade, any comments from you, or staff supports this? Thank you very much.
I do have those reuse slides.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. So this is kind of the follow-up to the previous previous question that we received about what could we potentially do in our city to look at maybe offsetting some of our irrigation demand. And so really the quick answer, the simple answer is to implement a reuse system. And basically a reuse system it's going to be a non-potable type system. So this would be water that's treated from a wastewater treatment plant, or look at harvesting the kind of the rainwater there. And so some of the customers you would be looking at potentially would be like an HOA if they wanted to sign up, town parks, schools, corporate campuses, anyone who has a very large irrigation demand. A reuse system could be a potential solution there. So one of the benefits of that is you're kind of reducing all of your potable water now comes from the city of Fort Worth. So if you're able to shave some of that off, then we're going to reduce our reliance and be a little bit more control of kind of our own irrigation from that perspective. So what are the different options in order to do that? So I've kind of listed the 3 top options here. Number 1 would be to develop a in-house supply and distribution system that would basically consist of building your own wastewater treatment plant and pumping and basically developing a reuse system from that. So you would have basically total control of how much you are able to kind of send down to that system. Option B would be to purchase treated effluent capacity. Your current wastewater goes to Trinity River Authority, TRA, their Denton Creek wastewater plant, which is up in Trophy Club, so just a couple miles away. And option C would be to do the rainwater harvesting. So in-house solution, developing and building a wastewater treatment plant. So you would basically treat your own wastewater, and you would have to basically build a reuse pump station and a piping network in order to get the water from where it's collected to where it wants to go. In addition to the many dollar signs I've put on the slide, you would have to have additional staff in order to basically run the O&M. I will tell you right now, if you ask me to ballpark the cost of a wastewater treatment plant, I would tell you from estimates that we've been getting, you're looking at per million gallons, so per MGD of plant, you're close to $50 million. There's neighboring utility building a 10 million gallon wastewater plant, and that's over $500 million. Yeah. Treatment plants are not cheap. So that's one solution. Option B, so talk about purchasing treated effluent. The Denton Creek wastewater plant, I have contacted them and asked the question about available reuse capacity. They have told me that they are currently expanding the Denton Creek wastewater plant, and they would be open to having a discussion to determine what the need is and if they would want to sell. I believe they sell to Town of Flower Mound right now, and I think they have a couple other customers who have reportedly expressed some interest in purchasing treated effluent. Again, this is common to all 3 approaches. You would have to build a pump station and a piping network to get the treated reuse water from the source to where it needs to go. And that third bullet there, you talk about adding if you don't have added storage with that, you could be potentially limited on the volume based on certain time of day. We do some reuse planning up in the city of Frisco right now. They have 2 wastewater plants in their city. They are limited at certain times of day when they can basically pump out to a lot of their customers just based on the volume that they can treat certain times a day. That would be one limited constraint. Or reuse option C, rainwater harvesting. Basically, this option deals with building retention ponds or storage tank that would then pump into that same pump station piping that we're getting from B. So I'd mark this as really not a sustainable or reliable solution because it's only available when it rains. You could build a big old hole and construct a pond. It fills up in March and it's empty by May. So that's not something you really can rely on probably in the hot, dry summer months. So probably your cheapest option if you were to go that route, but also the least reliable. So that's kind of what I have on that piece. I'll be happy to take any other questions.
Any questions? No? Again, thank you very much. Thanks for being here.
Yes, thank you.
Do I have a motion? Excuse me. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 24-70 approving the professional services agreement with Freeze and Nichols for water, wastewater, road water impact fee study as presented?
So moved.
Get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, consent agenda. Does anybody have anything on the consent agenda they want to pull out? I'm going to do this just for make sure I'm following protocol. I want to pull out Resolution 24-76 and to talk about, and then we'll bring it back up. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda all but Resolution 24-76?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 24-76, this is going to be real quick. Discuss, consider, and act to approve Resolution 24-76 authorizing the expenditure of funds providing pavement markings and other necessary traffic control devices from Stripe A zone in the amount not to exceed $85,000. Wade, the only thing I wanted to say, I know you and I talked about briefly, and the affects some of our residents. I've gotten notes to put a pedestrian crosswalk on the Solano and Granada crosswalks as people are leaving Entrada enjoying our trail system. Even though we have the new stop signs with the lights, that traffic's still going pretty fast. So I thought that was, I got a couple notes from residents. I thought that was a good idea. I hope we can fit that in.
Wade, but also can we add one on Roanoke Road for the Stagecoach folks? That might be harder because the other side of the street is Keller. But
I'm just asking to look at it, Wade. So
Yes,
yeah, same.
We'll do a quick look. We'll get some price estimates and we'll get back with you.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Can I get a motion to approve Resolution 24-76?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Next, we'll get on to regular agenda business items. WA Resolution 24-35, discuss, consider, and act to approve WA Resolution 24-35 to rescind WA Resolution 24-33 regarding the contract with NWN Carousel and Single Wire for Mass Notification System at Westlake Academy. I'm also going to combine this with WA Resolution 24-36, discuss, consider, and act to approve WA Resolution 2436 approving the purchase and installation of a security and mass notification system for Westlake Academy utilizing the single system grant funds from the state of Texas and Westlake Academy general funds in the amount not to exceed $100,000. Jason. That's a lot.
That's a lot, yeah. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll go over this real quick and jump to the next one, and I think that will explain why we're asking you to rescind this resolution. So that's you guys approved this resolution on September 16th. It's everything you just said. It was for a mass notification system through a different vendor. Since that time, we've done a contract for the access control system at the school. It's going to be a system through Verkada. And Verkada reached out to us and said, hey, we noticed you're doing mass notification system. Did you know we also do that? We did know they also do it, but it's it needs to be tied into their system. And at the time, we weren't doing their system yet. We didn't have approval from you guys. So now that we're doing their camera system and access control system, it makes sense to look at their mass notification system. So this is just, it's more affordable, and it's actually, it looks to be a better option for our staff. The previous system that was approved was, it was basically linked to our phone system, so it was going to live in the classrooms. There was options to put an app on a phone or on an iPad or things like that for when you're outside or roaming around. With this system through Verkada, it's actually a button that can be worn on a lanyard and stored on a wall too. So it's much more portable. So the whole reason we're doing this, Alyssa's law was passed in May 5th, 2023, mandates that all school districts and open enrollment charter schools in Texas have silent panic alert technology installed in their classrooms by the 2025 school year. So next school year. Trying to get a jump on that, so we're ready for that. The technology must enable the schools to instantaneously communicate with authorized emergency services such as law enforcement agencies, fire departments, and health departments. Both of these systems do that. The Verkada panic button and alarm system, it fully integrates with the camera system and access control system, like I mentioned. This it gives us a more complete system that will allow some integrations where when a panic button is pressed, it will allow the personnel that we've set up for the notifications, including police and fire, to see cameras near where that button was pressed. And it will also notify those personnel and then other people. We can set up very specific notification lists. Like I said, it pairs with cameras, customizable triggers and responses. So when a button's pressed, who do we want to notify? That's all customizable. It includes 24/7 professional monitoring. This is something we didn't have with the previous system, but this is going to be tied in with Verkada. They have their own team there, kind of like your own personal alarm system. It's a company that's always watching it 24/7, so they can take action if for some reason they didn't, but they'll work with us on that. What we're looking at is a 5-year purchase. It's a 5 year of licensing. That's the estimated battery life for these devices. The batteries are replaceable, but we're going to have 5 years of service that too. And it says here optional immediate police dispatch. Part of the law is we need that, so it's nice that that's an option. So, like I said, it integrates with cameras. Someone presses a button, it'll show up to the 10 nearest cameras where they press that button. Get history or current. That's what the button looks like. It's about 3 or 4 inches long. You can wear it around your neck on a lanyard. It can sit on the desk. It can mount on the wall, things like that. So you can take it around. And then you also have the option with these to have a phone app. Requiring people to install it, but they could. And you can put it on an iPad, and there's computer apps too. So we've got a lot of options.
Jason, this also ties in with our access control, correct? So if a panic button is pressed, that we can program it to automatically lock all our doors. Yeah,
that's
perfect.
I think that's one of the slides too. So again, the notification there, we can mount the panic button, or you can wear it. There's a whole computerized dashboard that people log in, look at. Got the whole workflow there that we can go through. Then, I guess it was on one of those. There it is. Choose to trigger additional actions from Verkada devices, such as initiating a door lockdown procedure. So, with that, staff's recommending that you do rescind the previous resolution. We haven't signed a contract. We did not. We've got your approval to do all that, but we didn't move forward after that. It was literally the next day that we found out about this system. So we've just been working to make sure this is going to cover everything we need, and it looks like it's going to do that and more. Fully integrates with our access control and camera system. So we're recommending that you rescind the previous resolution and that you approve this resolution. I will touch on this. I know the total cost is estimated at $70,536, and I put in there up to $100,000. So you're like, why are you doing that? We do have the 3 original buildings at the campus, which are PYP1, PYP2, and the gym. Those were built in 2003, and then the Arts and Science was built in 2009. I started in 2009. Those 4 buildings, the nicest way to put it is they did not consider technology when those were built. Yes, and there's just not. It is extremely difficult for us to run any new wires in those 4 buildings. There's no overhead as far as like where the roof structure and all that. There's nothing up there. Most of these are open straight up to the roof. There's no drop ceiling like this or anything like that. So there's no cabling up there. It's all run underground in trenches that are there, and then it goes off into rooms. So there's a little 3-foot crawl space that you can go through. But then if you want to come up into a room, there's 1 hole into each room, and it's full with the stuff that's in there now. So if you want to come up in another area, and we did this several years ago, you have to drill a hole through 12 inches of concrete, then come up the wall. So we're hoping none of that has to happen. But depending on where these sensors need to be, of course, the devices are wireless, but they've got to talk to a sensor somewhere, right. And those are wired. Those have to be plugged in to our network somewhere, so we've got to get a cable to them. So we're just putting in some extra money there. We're not sure.
That makes sense. Was this the system they used in the Georgia school that had the incident, or was it one similar to it?
It's similar.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know what that system was.
Okay, I can't remember the name.
There's several.
It's the same technology.
Same technology, yes, sir.
Yeah, that I read about that they really credited for helping that situation. Okay.
Mayor, before we vote, I would want to remind you quickly that we'll need 2 separate motions.
Yeah,
one for the recension and one for.
Kind of took care of me.
I just have a quick question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
All right, Jason, so as you know, on campuses, things walk. They leave us. How much would it cost for replacement of those buttons that are going to go with people different places?
Good question. I think we're paying around $85 for them.
I'm
each,
sorry?
$85 each. I've seen them quoted up to $200 each.
Wow. Okay, so we're going to have.
So
there's going to need to be a plan for upkeep and maintenance beyond this initial cost, and this is grant funded. So that's something it's good in the initial part.
I've seen that in other buildings where they make them permanent. You just attach them to the wall. You don't allow them to take them outside, and they use their phone if they travel outside, because there's typically an app that you can use as well, right?
There is. We do have issues with cell coverage on campus because it's in a hole.
Yeah.
That's a separate issue that the council needs to be dealing with.
And then we don't always have good Wi-Fi outside either. We haven't. We've got a few areas where Wi-Fi can reach, but that could be. That's not something we can cover right now.
Well,
but that can be
these
fixed
are.
too.
So, Kelly, you're going to have to figure out maintenance, but replacement and some accountability and responsibility.
Yeah, no, for sure. Just wanted to clarify that.
No, that's good.
Yeah, I don't really see it very different as like a key card, right? I mean, staff has to keep their key card. If they lose their key card,
they do. That's a
Very
great
similar to a
comparison.
key card.
Except the key card is very inexpensive as compared to
Sure.
Yeah,
They're about $5 or so. I think we charge them $10 sometimes.
Okay.
So, any questions?
Any other questions?
Questions?
Jason, as always, thank you. I'm going to get 2 separate motions, so I need a motion for WA Resolution 24-35.
So moved.
Going to get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Can I get a motion for WA Resolution 24-36?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Jason, again, thank you. Moving along, Resolution 24-73, discuss, consider, and act to approve Resolution 24-73, authorizing the expenditure of funds for the purchase of water meters and utility parts from Atlas Utility Supply Company in the amount not to exceed $100,000. And Cheryl, there you are.
Hello again. So it's a new fiscal year, and we're moving forward with some new initiatives in Public Works. The purchase of utility parts will be through an interlocal agreement with the City of North Richland Hills, which allows the town to purchase utility parts at contract prices that have been bid by a supplier. For the purchase of meters, Badger has provided a sole source letter stating that Atlas Utility Supply Company is an authorized distributor of Badger meter products, including endpoints. In previous presentations, you've heard me mention that Public Works plans to initiate a meter change-out program. This is a best practice in the industry that, to our knowledge, has not been previously implemented in Westlake. The American Water Works Association recommendation of best practices is to inspect, audit, and repair or replace a minimum of 10% of the meters annually. The town of Westlake has approximately 1,100 meters. That includes both residential and commercial meters ranging in size from 3/4 inches to 6 inches. Public Works currently has 2 field personnel to perform this maintenance on the water system, in addition to maintaining the wastewater system, storm drain system, public streets, and numerous parks throughout the town. We do look forward to hiring 2 additional field staff in the coming months, so thank you to the council for approving those positions in the fiscal year 2025 budget. For this first fiscal year, on the meter change-out program, and due to the limited staffing that we have in Westlake, we are aiming for 5% of the meters, which is approximately 50 meters. Public Works has prioritized the commercial meters at the corporate campuses because any repairs or discrepancies between those meters and the town's billing software would have the greatest impact on the system as well as to the customers. Once these large meters are inspected and repaired or replaced, staff will move on to the residential meters. Staff is also working with a third-party on-site meter testing company to verify that those large meters are operating within the American Water Works Association parameters for accuracy. Preliminary investigations have determined that similar to the commercial meters, there will be some needed improvements on the residential side to those meters once we get started on those. In most cases, staff will generally correct any issues that arise before moving on to the next location when we get started on those residential meters. The photos on the slide on the left side, those are photos of the meters themselves. And on the right side, that is a construction meter. One of the things we're planning to purchase. So regular maintenance of the water, wastewater, and storm drain systems require various types of utility parts in order to repair broken water and sewer service lines, mains, or repair and replace damaged hydrants, manholes, storm drain inlets, water valves, and water meter boxes. So the photos here are just a sampling of the things that are having to be maintained throughout the town, and those are the reason that we need utility parts. The item before you this evening is for an expenditure of up to $100,000 with Atlas Utility Supply Company for meters and other utility parts. The total request is greater than the town manager's authority and requires council approval. Funding for the request is through the council-approved fiscal year 2025 Public Works Utility Fund operating budget. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Do you have your trailer? Are we pretty self-contained on being able to fix our meters now with this? Do we got the trailer in? Is that in?
The large meters are very heavy.
Yeah.
Additional equipment will probably be needed in the future. Some of those things right now we will be able to rent. Okay. Like I said, the large meters are super heavy. We're going to need cranes and that kind of thing for those types of maintenance.
But did we get the trailer in that we approved?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The trailer actually helps with the digging of the holes.
Okay.
It uses high water pressure to kind of clear the area out for us. Can also be used for some other applications as well. But it's basically a giant pressure washer that helps us to ensure that everything is cleared away and we're ready to make the repair quickly, rather than having to dig it up with shovels or a tractor that's too clumsy and could cause more damage than help us.
Any questions from council?
Cheryl, just to help me as a reminder, so this addresses 5% of our meters. Is that what I heard you say?
The $100,000 that we're requesting is based on a lot of assumptions. Right now, the calculation that we went through to come up with the $100,000 is only for 5% of the meters.
Could you just help me, or remind me, what the, is there a return associated with this, or is it just maintenance that's required, or is there some sort of return to the town with respect to accurate water readings?
Okay, so let me give you an example of what we've already found. With regards to the large meters, staff has already visited the commercial campuses, and what we found thus far on those campuses is there are 2 bypass lines around the meters that have been left open, which means that water has been used but recorded flow was not going through the meter. So we have no way of knowing how this could have happened and how much lost revenue has occurred, but we are taking steps to try to ensure that it doesn't happen again. On a lot of the residential meters, the areas that staff has been able to, so Badger has a software, and Public Works staff has been going through the software, and they're able to find accounts where there's very little usage. And when they find things like that, they will go out to the site and they will verify that the meter is not damaged. They'll verify that it's recording correctly. And what we have noticed is in those situations where we have changed out meters, the next day there's a lot more flow. So there has been a lot of lost revenue to the town. And so a meter change-out program gives us the ability to go out there and check the meters and be a little more proactive in keeping them running correctly.
Would you suggest, or do we need an ordinance where we find a meter bypass? There's no way to determine intent, right? However, do we need an ordinance where we back charge an estimated plus 20%? It's like not paying your income taxes on time. I wouldn't know, but I understand you pay a penalty.
Friend told you?
If a friend told me you'd pay a penalty if you don't pay on time, but do you need an ordinance to help put a message out to the town that this kind of practice comes with penalties or something?
Yes.
I will tell you that I have not looked to see what we have, but that would certainly be helpful. In some of the cases, though, it's really difficult to determine how it happened. One of the things that we're doing to try to be proactive is we're locking the bypass valves with cable locks to ensure that they're not open without consent of the utility. We're taking pictures and we're trying to track those things, but because my experience with other municipalities is when it comes time to, I'll say prosecute or theft, it has been very difficult to prove that it has actually happened. And without that kind of a documentation, you can say it as many times as you want to, but if you're not able to prosecute, then it kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah, and I think I'd want to avoid prosecuting members of the community, but just pay up and go on with your life.
But in all honesty, I mean, Cheryl and Wade, this has not been malicious. A lot of this has been self-inflicted, right? We have infrastructure issues in Westlake that we need to address. We have additional controls we need to put in. So, Mike, to answer your question, the way I think about that is more loss avoidance, because we've had more things than I care to talk about water that we just have not managed right. Is that fair?
Yes, and to be honest, I'm very excited about it because I've heard our citizens complain about the water rates being excessively high in Westlake. When we go back and look at the amount of infrastructure that we're having to upkeep and put in place, a lot of that can probably be avoided, right? We don't have to raise water fees as much in the future because we are able to actually get the water that's being utilized paid for. So that's a great, that's a great,
what a concept.
Yeah, like, as you stated, Mayor, it's kind of a stop loss on what we've got going on. So I'm excited about that, and I think that to your point, Mr. Celta, that we do need like a tampering fee. It wouldn't be an exuberant fee, but if you're going to go out and mess with your water meter, your electric meter, or anything like that, then there should be a tampering fee in our fee schedule, and we're going to be bringing a fee schedule back to council in probably December for review and to ensure that we're charging the appropriate fees for citizens and our businesses in town.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Wade, I would support. The names mean a lot. I mean, it's possible a service person bypass and then turn it, throw the T valve. So I mean, we don't want to infer our residents have tampered. We just need to recover the water we've provided, and we have no way but this way to estimate it. We've got a utility guy on the board here that could probably help you cover some of that.
But along those lines, and I think this is more curiosity on my part, because the ion water thing that we've got is amazing. I mean, I've been able to detect, I haven't, ion water has 3 leaks that I would never have found out about unless it was for that. That tells me that there is some smart meter portion of the infrastructure. So there are smart meters that we have already, right? Because they're reading meters. We're not sending out meter readers.
That's
right?
correct.
So is there not a way that we can do those kinds of comparisons? I realize that there's a lot of people, I'm talking about residents now. People who leave, they go off to another place in the wintertime, summertime, what have you. So we know that they're not using as much water, and of course they're not using as much landscaping water. I'm sorry, I'm just going on too far. Let me make the point. Are there audit trails that we can say, this doesn't make any sense? Next door neighbor uses X, and this person uses Y. Are they away? Tap on their door? What can we do to assure that fellow council member is saying those things don't happen on the residential side?
So as I mentioned, we have staff right now that's going through that exact software, and that's what he's been doing, is he's trying to make those comparisons, and he's looking for those anomalies that something doesn't seem quite right, on a larger meter versus a smaller meter. As part of our software update, that's, transferring that information as we go out there to those meters. Other things that we're finding is that the meter size is not correct on the billing software. So there's a calculation that has to be made in the software in order to bill a resident correctly, and those are the things that they're able to do. They're verifying the sizes, they're verifying that they're reading, they're verifying that the calculation is being done correctly. So that is part of the change-out program, and that's absolutely what we're trying to accomplish here.
And Mr. Yukira, we've also put into practice with Casey and her finance team that we're doing an audit on a certain percentage of those meters every single month, or on the bills every single month. So we're working towards that proactive stance.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any other questions? Can I get a motion to approve Resolution 24-73?
So moved.
Get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Cheryl, thank you. Okay, 24-351, discuss, consider, and act regarding a request from Bernal Homes, Inc. to deviate from current certain building aesthetics, design, and material standards contained within the Entrada design guidelines. Stan, I'm going to ask for this to be an executive session, and then we'll reconvene after. So it is 5:33. We're going to convene to executive session, and it should not take long. Upstairs.